It doesn't happen often, but every once in a while you get a perfect season of television. Classic shows like True Detective Season 1, Band of Brothers, or The Wire Season 4. But there's a more recent show I would also put in that exact same category. The Promised Neverland Season 1. The most addictive show I have ever seen. At first glance, it's about a peaceful orphanage with a loving foster mom and dozens of happy siblings. But then you discover the truth. These kids are trapped in the deadliest game of tag ever played. Even if you normally don't watch anime, I guarantee the first episode will hook you. It has a 9.1 on IMDb, higher than the pilots of Stranger Things, Game of Thrones, and Breaking Bad. And after watching it, I binged the rest of the season in a single sitting. So today, my goal is to do two things. Convince you to give this show a chance, because if you do, I know you'll love it, and break down what exactly makes it impossible to stop watching, starting with the very first minute. The show opens with a simple flashback. 3 5-year-olds standing before a towering, mysterious gate. When Emma looks through the bars and asks, "What is this?" It sounds like a naive childhood question, but to these orphans, this gate marks the absolute edge of their known world, and it's their first time seeing it. As they discuss it, we learn the core rules of their reality. No one has ever gone outside the gate. Mom warned them the gate was dangerous, and nobody actually knows its true purpose. The scene is just 60 seconds, but it masterfully accomplishes two things. First, it establishes the personalities of our 3 core characters with impressive efficiency. Emma is the innocent optimist, Ray is the pragmatic realist, and Norman is the calm, calculating strategist. Every critical decision they make throughout the season, all the way to the climax, is rooted in these exact traits established in the opening minute. Second, the scene solves one of the biggest challenges of any TV pilot: how to deliver exposition without sounding like exposition. On paper, this dialogue is a total info dump. The kids are laying out the rules of their world back to back to back, which in almost any other show would feel lazy and forced. But here, it works because of who is speaking. Children, unlike adults, have no filter when they talk. They state facts matter-of-factly and ask questions out of pure, unfiltered curiosity. Their innocence and the way they talk in their cute little kid voices completely disguises this heavy exposition. But not just that. These kids also act as a mirror for the audience. When we start this show and step into its world for the first time, we are just as blind and unknowing as these 5-year-olds. We aren't just watching their curiosity, we're experiencing it too. As they learn, so do we. It's a subtle opening, but it perfectly sets up the big reveal that follows. Fast forward to the present day. Our 3 main characters are now 11 years old, the oldest of the 38 kids living at Grace Field House. At first glance, life here is paradise. Gourmet meals, endless green fields, and a warm, loving foster mother named Isabella. The show uses bright sunlight, lush greens, and pristine white uniforms to frame this as a cozy slice of life anime. But a few things seem off. The show plants these unsettling visual clues. Numbered tattoos on every child's neck, a strict age limit of 12 for adoption, siblings who leave and are never heard from again, and a forbidden fence surrounding the perimeter. Structurally, the first half of the episode is a trick. It deliberately lulls you into a false sense of security, teasing you with these warning signs, but then it pulls the rug out from under you. In the second half of the episode, day turns to night and the tone shifts dramatically. Playtime is over as reality sets in. 6-year-old Connie is adopted, but she leaves behind her favorite stuffed bunny, so Emma and Norman sprint to the forbidden gate to return it, expecting to find a tearful goodbye. Instead, they find a delivery truck, and inside, Connie's lifeless body, drained of blood, with a single red flower blooming from her chest. Hiding under the truck in terror, they learn the cold, dark secret of their home. They aren't orphans being raised for adoption. they are livestock, raised to be food for demons, trapped in a prison, and their beloved mom is their warden. In just 2 minutes, the show completely transforms from a cute, wholesome drama into a terrifying, high-stakes prison break thriller. Suddenly, those pristine white uniforms don't look like orphan clothes anymore. They look like prison jumpsuits. On its own, this shock reveal is a good ending. But what elevates this episode to an addictive, must-watch masterpiece is how it establishes information asymmetry. Emma and Norman know the truth. Isabella knows someone was at the truck because they left behind the stuffed bunny, but she doesn't know who. This single detail changes everything. It turns a simple prison narrative into a high-stakes game of psychological chess. Genius 11-year-olds planning an impossible escape against an all-powerful adult who's quietly hunting them. This is why episode 1 is the perfect pilot that immediately hooks you and forces you to keep watching. But plenty of shows deliver a great pilot but then fall off. So how does The Promised Neverland sustain this tension for 12 straight episodes? By giving its villain the ultimate unfair advantage. In classic prison break stories like Shawshank Redemption or Prison Break, the protagonists are adults. They have physical strength, life experience, and they understand the world outside the walls. Here, our protagonists have none of that because they are 11 years old. They are up against a 31-year-old adult who outmatches them physically and intellectually. But not just that, they are at a total information disadvantage. Think about what Emma, Norman, and Ray actually know at the start of the season. They are inside Grace Field House, and outside the gates are demons. That's it. They don't know what year it is, they don't know if human civilization even exists anymore, or if the entire planet is controlled by demons. They don't know a single thing about the outside world. So they aren't just breaking out of prison. They are escaping into the complete unknown. The odds are stacked against them from the start, which is why watching them try to deal with these problems is so addictive. Unlike lesser thrillers that rely on cheap artificial cliffhangers, The Promised Neverland consistently piles on tension through relentlessly adding new problems for the kids to solve. Every time the kids come up with a brilliant plan, the show throws a massive new obstacle to block their path. For example, when they inspect the perimeter in episode 2, they discover a massive concrete wall. Lacking gear to climb it, they create ropes out of spare bed sheets. But the moment they fix one issue, they're faced with another. They then discover that tracking devices are implanted inside their ears, which lets Isabella know their locations at all times. Every single breakthrough they make only uncovers another deadly complication. To survive, these kids must use the very few advantages they actually have. One is their numbers, the 38 of them versus the one adult Isabella. Another is their intelligence. Emma, Norman, and Ray are child geniuses. And their last advantage is their resourcefulness. They turn something you'd never expect into their greatest asset, the game of tag. Tag is one of the first games every child learns to play. It's simple, innocent, and fun. But at Grace Fieldhouse, it's the ultimate survival tool. On a literal level, Emma, Norman, and Ray turn tag into a military training simulation. When they teach the younger kids how to get better at tag, they are no longer playing a childhood game. They are conditioning an army of children to outrun demons. On a figurative level, as Ray puts it, tag is chess with your whole body, which perfectly describes every single day at Grace Fieldhouse. A life or death battle of wits between these 11-year-old geniuses and Isabella. The kids have to play several moves ahead to outmaneuver an all-knowing opponent, where a single mistake doesn't cost them the game, it means checkmate and immediate death. But while this constant cat and mouse dynamic kept me binging, it's not the main reason I still think about this show today. That comes down to something much deeper. They say your favorite stories are a reflection of who you are. That the reason you love your favorite movie or TV show is because you strongly identify with something about it. When looking at my all-time favorite movies, The Shawshank Redemption and Blade Runner 2049, I can see why they resonated with me. But why did The Promised Neverland have that exact same effect? When I started this show on a Sunday afternoon, I was at a point in my life where I felt trapped. Stuck in a job I didn't like and unsure of where to go from there. I was looking for a quick distraction from the usual Sunday scaries, and I'd only planned on watching the first episode. Instead, I ended up binging all 12 episodes in 5 hours straight. What started as pure escapism, which has been the purpose of most TV shows in my adult life, turned into something cathartic. On the surface, the connection was obvious. We were both stuck in a situation we couldn't easily escape. But beneath that surface, the show was tapping into something much deeper. At its core, The Promised Neverland is a brutal metaphor for the transition out of childhood innocence. It's about that terrifying, inevitable moment in life where everything changes. Before that moment, life is simple. You play with your friends, your parents take care of you, and you're shielded from the reality of being an adult. But eventually, you wake up one day and realize the world isn't as safe or simple as you thought it was. Those carefree days you once took for granted quickly evaporate, replaced with work, stress, and endless responsibilities. So it's easy to feel trapped. Like the odds are stacked against you and things won't get better. So as I watched these 11-year-olds refuse to lie down and accept their fate in a system designed to crush them, it didn't just entertain me, it gave me something I desperately needed in that moment. A reminder that even when you feel completely outmatched, powerless, and trapped by your circumstances, you still have the power to take control of your life and rewrite your story. That message to me is what takes The Promised Neverland from a great thriller to an unforgettable masterpiece. And it's why season 1 is one of my favorite seasons of television ever made. Whether you're a die-hard anime fan or someone who strictly watches live-action thrillers like Breaking Bad or Stranger Things, season 1 of The Promised Neverland is mandatory viewing. A truly perfect season of television. But consider this a warning. When you finish episode 12 and your first instinct is to jump straight into season 2, don't try it! Season 2 is a complete waste of time. A disappointment that I would say is on par with the final season of Game of Thrones. Just look at this chart and see for yourself. It's a shame because the rest of the story in the manga is actually fantastic. So do yourself a favor and just read that instead. Until next time, subscribe and start watching better shows.